Here we are again with AmeriCorps Connections, and we are celebrating Earth Month. And we have another exciting guest with us today, Kawon. I just told you I was going to say it. Veazy, Kawon Veazy.
You got it.
Yes, I'm winning at all things. I'm very excited to dive into his story and learn more about everything you did during your service year. But before we get started, I'm just going to remind everybody that I'm Nikki Fiacco and I'm the brainchild for AmeriCorps Connects. And I've been wanting to connect with AmeriCorps alumni for years and years and years. And I just finally pulled the trigger back in February of 2023 and decided, well, heck, I'm just going to get amazing people on here and learn their stories and talk with them, and hopefully we'll find connections virtually and in person. I think some things are already happening. So I'm very excited to continue these conversations. And for the month of April, we are celebrating Earth Month. It's also Volunteer Month, so we can talk about volunteering as well. And I'm just hoping that through these conversations, y'all are inspired to take some sort of action or do something around the environment, either locally or globally or whatever you feel so moved to do. I also, for those folks that maybe haven't had a service year, I'm hoping that you learn a little bit about what might be out there, what's possible through a service year with AmeriCorps. There's so many different ways of serving. You don't have to do NCCC. If you want to do something for the environment, you can do state and national, which was what I did, and I did environmental education. So again, I'm just hoping through these conversations and these stories that you're inspired to take some action, whether it's service or volunteerism or petition or run for office. I don't know, whatever your aspirations are. So with all of that, I'm going to turn it over to Kawon. And Kawon, you served 2 years with the Green City Forest, and that's a program for 18 to 27-year-olds. But I am not familiar with that program in one bit. So I'm going to turn it over to you and have you give us your bio and talk about your service year, and we'll go from there.
No problem. So yeah, my name is Kawon Veazy. I am 23 years old, and I was a part of the AmeriCorps program, Green City Force, for 2 years, 2021 to 2023. Where I started off as a Corps member and worked my way up to an EcoHub fellow, which is basically a supervisor slash teacher role. The program has 6 farms in the boroughs of New York City, Queens, Brooklyn, Manhattan, Staten Island, and the Bronx. But I mainly served in 3 particular farms. One farm in Howard Houses, which is in Brooklyn, another farm in Bayview Houses, which is also in Brooklyn, and then I ended my last term on a farm in Harlem, Manhattan, in Wagner House's farm. And you could catch me doing anything from growing and giving out food from scratch for completely free of charge, running events, such as like we had a harvest fest every year on October, which is basically like this big event where we have all the kids and their parents come out, and we do face painting, we give out pumpkins, we have haystacks, we make the farm look really, really cool and Halloweenish. So I did a multitude of things there, and I taught a bunch of people how to farm in my second year.
So let me get this straight. You went into this program and you became a farmer.
Yes.
That is, so tell me what your decision making was up to the point of like, yes, I want to enter this program and learn how to do urban farming. Like, what was the motivation behind that?
Okay, so I'm gonna be completely, fully transparent. I
Let's
didn't
do
know
this.
anything about farming. I had like brief, very, very brief, like dealings with like the agriculture world. I worked for like a environmental company for like 2 months as part of an internship, but like that was like as far as my knowledge went with that. And my motivation for actually selecting this program, honestly, it was 1 year post-pandemic, so it was 2021. And I had been out of work for like the full year for the pandemic, as was a lot of people. And I just really wanted to get up and get out there and do something new, because the pandemic put a lot of things into perspective that, anything could shut down at any time. So you need to live your life right now. So I wanted to get a new experience. And I never really thought of myself as someone who was a like physical labor type of person. It wasn't really my speed. I never thought it would be my speed, but I was like, let me try this once and see how it goes. And I ended up actually really, really loving it. And I can't I always tell everyone everywhere I go that I'm a farmer now. And I would go back to it in an instance.
Well, that is so that I want to ask you more things about farming, but I want to take this opportunity to, we're going to leap forward real quick without doing much reflection, and we'll circle back around. But tell everybody what you're doing now.
I am working for a construction company called Shore Constructions. I am their community engagement liaison there. So I'm basically in charge of resident engagement and making sure the residents are happy with the new boiler rooms that we are doing to help them get better heat and stuff like that, because we're working specifically in these low funded housing developments called NYCHA, which is New York City Housing Authority. And they often are malnourished in terms of like getting the same accessibilities that people in Manhattan and people in, I don't know, Queens, Astoria with like public housing are getting. So my job is basically to make sure that our residents are happy and to see what we can do to make them even happier.
You mentioned like not having access to food. So what I'm seeing here is just a perfectly lined up set of opportunities for you to be the conduit to these individuals that will respect you, and showing up and educating and teaching them about nutrition, because a lot of the times this is what people need to understand. It's not that people aren't necessarily eating, it's that they're
Mhm.
not eating nutritious food.
Mhm.
And it's oftentimes not necessarily their fault that they don't have access to more nutritional food. It's the fact that the calories that to consume to do something on a daily basis, if you only have access and a certain amount of income to purchase something, you're going to go for a high caloric food, which a
Mhm.
lot of times does not have the nutrition that a lower caloric food. So can we just go there for a minute?
Yes.
Let's just go there. It Because the Earth Month, we are part of the Earth, and our experiences, our physical beings on the Earth, the nourishment that we can get out of the Earth. Not everybody has that accessibility. During the pandemic, I live in a suburban house. I have a yard. I'm near the water. So my not being able to go anywhere was okay. I'll spend a lot of time in my backyard. I will walk down to the river more often. I was so privileged during the
Mhm.
pandemic to be able to have those experiences. So when we're thinking about, help us understand and orient us about the individuals that you're working with, and then because of your experience through AmeriCorps, your ability to work with them, because I think you mentioned like community gardens and stuff that you've
Yes.
created. So
Mm.
yeah, let's just go there. Let's just
Yeah.
stick here for a minute.
So piggybacking off of what you said, the whole like goal and point of Green City Forest was to put farms in areas that were malnourished, excuse me, sorry, malnourished in like the aspects of healthy food. Like we hand built these farms from scratch in areas that were surrounded by liquor stores on every corner, delis on every corner, a McDonald's, a Burger King. It was very strategically planned out where we put the farms, and we were working in the middle of the pandemic when the Delta variant was running rampant. And we were like viewed as essential workers. Basically, we we were out there
Yeah.
in the we were out there in like the midst of like when it was really, 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 really going down, giving out these foods to people that were like they weren't getting access to food because they weren't working during the pandemic. And we were kind of like there as like an alternative where they could say, hey, I could get this food for free and I could still feed my family. I have enough to feed my family for Thanksgiving. Like we did a big Thanksgiving thing where we gave out bunch of food to anyone that needed it, anyone that wanted it. So like I think the program in itself is like a blessing because like it really provided that opportunity of like help to people in need.
Mhm. And connection. I mean, one of the things that during the pandemic and, what, and even before and after the pandemic, the connection, like now that we're doing so much stuff, so many things on video, we feel like we're connected, but we're really not. And for that human, I know we couldn't hug each other or anything during the pandemic, but even to just see a human like giving food and being able to accept it during that time is so magical and so important and so part of our human experience.
hmm And they would come to we would have regulars every Saturday coming to our table, and we would know them by name. They would know us by name, and they would always come and smile. And it would be so sad because obviously we couldn't do like the whole like hug or handshake thing because of how crazy it was at the time. But like just seeing like being able to bring a smile to someone's face like every Saturday was like a highlight of my day.
That's so beautiful. So tell us a little bit about a day in the life of a Green City AmeriCorps member. What did you do? Like, so farming is cyclical, right? So what season did your service year start?
Okay, so I served two different terms. So the first term I started April, so right before summer. It was like so that's when we started. They already had a cohort before
Hmm.
that was already like working. So we came in to kind of like do the transfer, if that makes sense. So that
Hmm.
cohort were going on their way out and we were coming on our way in. So they taught us some stuff and we learned how to we would start our day every day at 8 in the morning, um, rain or
That's
shine.
late for a farmer.
Yeah, it used to be it used to be 7, but they changed it to they made the changes to make accommodations for people who had kids,
Yeah.
stuff like that. So they made those little accommodations. But we would start our day every day at 8 o'clock. And rain or shine, doesn't matter what the weather was, we were there at 8 o'clock. And the first thing we would do is set up our holes, water the plants. Uh, and then we would spend like a couple of hours weeding, which is basically like just pulling out the dead plants that are taking nutrients from the healthier plants that are growing at a faster rate. And that would take up most of our day. We would do land maintenance, which was basically getting rid of anything that was like making the front of our garden look ugly or the
Hmm.
back of our garden look ugly. And then we would harvest every Friday, harvest the food, harvest and wash it with like solution, like a peppermint solution. We would harvest it every day and we would make sure there would be no type of pest on there. And then every Saturday we would sit there from 9 to about 2 and give out food for free all day, basically.
That was your service year.
hmm
Wow. And did it just blow your mind to understand, like to learn about agriculture and like I can plant a seed and have a plant and eat the food. I can do that. Like, did
yeah,
you ever have a moment where you're like, holy moly, this is pretty cool?
I think it's a super crazy like experience because like when you think of New York City, I mean like New York City is like mostly buildings, mostly like skyscrapers and all of these things. You never think of like being a farmer in New York City. Like
Yeah,
that's not
yeah.
the first thing that comes to your mind. So like when I first heard about the program, I was like, they have farms in Brooklyn, they have farms, farms, but like I think it was like definitely an out of body experience because like when I first started doing it, I was like, oh my God, I would never imagine myself actually being able to do this. Like, and I think we all kind of like all of our members kind of have like that same out of body experience. Like,
Mm.
wow, we really like did this. We really ran like a full service year of like farming successfully, giving out like 20,000 to 30,000 pounds of food every.
Wow.
So that was crazy for us.
That's so exciting. So are you still in touch with some of the members that you served with, or what was that like?
Yeah, so my original team, I'm really, really, really good friends with. I just seen them like last weekend.
Oh, that's
So
so cool.
I'm super super duper good friends with my original team, and then my students from the second year I keep in contact with to make sure they don't need anything, or if they're looking for a job or looking for work or looking for anything, they can ask me for anything. They all have like my number or social media or something of the sort of that. So yeah, it's definitely the whole point of the program is that we make the connections with each other so that when we're all outside of this, like, you know, you never know where someone's going to be 10 years from now. They can give you a job 10 years from now. So it's important to keep those connections. And I recently, at my new job, I recently got to put over a connection between someone that worked at Green City Forest, and we're going to be working together on a project coming up this year at my new job. So,
And that's like the whole, like that's so perfectly said why I wanted to create this podcast and just start interviewing and talking to AmeriCorps alums, because now somebody knows that there's another AmeriCorps alum out there in New York that has this experience. And it's so important that, yeah, that we keep talking and we keep our connections, because that's where we're going to get our opportunities. And let's just circle back on your first experience of your AmeriCorps year was, harvesting and farming and working the land. What
mhm.
did you do during your second year?
So my second year was I did help work the land and a lot of that as well.
Oh, looks like we lost him. I'm gonna go get him back. We got Kawon back. He had to take a quick break. He
um,
had to go shoo the crows off the corn.
yeah, sorry for the brief intermission. Yeah, I did work the land my second year, but my role for the second year mostly was actually teaching the newer people that came in, the newer cohort that came in, how to do the thing that I learned in my first year, which was working the land and farming. So I was more in a teacher role, and it was 30 people, and then we broke off after 2 months. We broke off into our separate teams, and I had two teams of five in that year. So I taught 10 people how to farm, and I graduated 10 people as well. So that was pretty fun.
That's so exciting. That's so exciting. What are your aspirations for, like, where are we going to see Kawan? Where are we going to see you in 10 years? What are your aspirations? I
Well,
just started asking this question. I'm like, just curious where everybody's planning or thinking or wanting to be.
Well, I really love what I'm doing now with Toro Construction. So hopefully I'm still working with them in some capacity 10 years from now. I really love what I do with there. I begged and begged and begged and begged Green City Force to help me get me some type of like role in outreach. And they came through with me. So I'm forever grateful for working with the job that I have now with Toro Constructions. But in addition to working with them, I want to have my own business derived from something that I was doing with Green City Force, which was a thing called Wellness Warriors,
Oh,
and
yes.
I want to
Sorry.
make I want to make that something bigger, and we could go into more depth with that whenever you feel like it. But I wanna make that something bigger 10 years from now and have that be
Yes.
like a company that's running.
Let's go there. I remember our conversation that we had a few weeks ago, and that was something that I definitely wanted to circle back around, because what we need. It is what we need. So let's go there as long as you want and as much as you want to share. Let's definitely do it.
Yeah,
And
so basically,
don't hang up on me.
no, no. Yeah, so basically, Wellness Warriors is it's basically a mental health group that I was a part of my first year of Green City Forest. I was a part of it the first year as like just like a member. And then the second year at Green City Forest, I took the whole thing over as like the host and kind of like the creator of everything. So I had all full creative control over that in my second year. And basically, the point of it is just to be a free space for the core members to come and kind of like get info on healthy mental health practices to help them get through the week during their service hours. Because being a part of like the service year, specifically our program, is not an easy thing. We work in some of like the hottest weathers, some of the coldest weathers. It could be raining. And then, in addition to all of that, dealing with different personalities who are going through like different things, it could be a lot to deal with mentally. And so we wanted to create a space, me and the creator of this movement. Her name is Rosanna De Leon, who was a part of the program as well. And she made it just so we could have a space where we can feel comfortable and talk about what we've been dealing with in our personal lives that's affecting us mentally from being able to do our service.
Can you tell the audience and me a little bit about what that would look like in the program? Is it one-on-one or is it group? Just tell us a little bit about like how the program works.
So originally, the first year, the only presence that Wellness Warriors had was we would do a Zoom every Monday at 7 o'clock for 1 hour. So it was completely voluntarily after work. So anybody that came to be a part of it was volunteering their own time because they really wanted to be there. We were not getting paid for it or any of that stuff. And then the second year, we got a budget and everything. So we got to expand a little more. So we were a part of like all of the special events that Green City Force were doing. We had like our own table at all of those events where we would teach people like how to do we did like these bags that you put under your pillow with like these different type of herbs, and they help you sleep better at night, or they help you like you breathe it in and they help you sleep better. Or if you have anxiety, it helps with your anxiety when you smell it. It would be like stuff like rosemary and lavender, stuff like that. So we got to be a part of the events, and then we also had plans for a trip that we were supposed to do, and I think that's going to happen this year without me. So I think Wellness Warriors is still going strong. So that's pretty cool.
That's exciting. And so where do you feel so is there like techniques that you help individuals learn just kind of in stressful situations or when they feel like the anxiety is going to come up? What are some techniques? I don't know, give us a couple tips. What can we do?
So basically we ran our whole meeting based off of the seven chakras. And basically we use the seven chakras as kind of like the basis of our meeting. So each meeting we would go over a different chakra and how to maintain that. And we would do like 20-minute meditations, or we would do affirmations exercise where we would write down different affirmations and we would read them out loud and explain what these affirmations mean to us, and basically teach people what affirmations are in general. And we also would come up with like different how you could use crystals to help you. So basically stuff like that. And we would use all of those things as like tools to kind of like find like different practices. So whatever works for them works for them. Sometimes the
Mhm.
crystals didn't work for our students because they didn't believe in the crystals, and that's okay. We were there to provide different options for them. So sometimes the crystals didn't work, but the bags full of herbs worked. So it depends on what works for you.
You are speaking to the choir right now. I did a whole um, meditation this morning with an affirmation that anything and everything is possible. And I just truly believe that, like, if we can really believe that we can be open to anything and everything, all of our dreams coming true and all of the things that we want coming at us. While one of the things that I've learned is that, like, rather than thinking when I have the car, when I have the relationship, when I have the man or the woman or whatever, I'll be happy. It's like finding that happiness right now, and then things start to align in your actual 3D physical being. And a
Hmm.
lot of times something like a crystal is a reminder, can be a reminder of that, right? Like,
Hmm.
yes, there are magical powers that come out of our earth. I love that you brought up crystals, because those are created within our beautiful planet. Um, and there can be powers and energies in those. But sometimes for me, even just putting a little crystal or a rock in my pocket, or wearing it, a pendant or something, or a ring, is a reminder of me to be mindful. Like, I wear sometimes a rose quartz. And
Hmm.
those are days where I'm a little tough on myself. And I'm like, you need to remember that, like, you have to love yourself first before others can love you. So I love that you're spreading. Are you still involved with Wellness Warriors in any way?
So right now, well, I think Wellness Warriors is still being ran in Green City Forest, so I'm very happy about that. Because that was my main goal. I was like, when I leave, I want somebody to take this over and keep it going,
Mhm.
generation after generation after generation for each cohort. But me and the original creator, her name is Rosanna De Leon. Right now it's on the back burner, but I definitely think we're going to collaborate at some point and do like our own version of it, I guess, and change the name up and kind of like do it bigger for New York City Housing Authority, which is my main goal. I want to get it involved
Mm.
in there because I feel like there's such a big stigma of mental health and just mental health practices overall in like the Black and Latino community, which is what the NYCHA developments are mostly populated with. So I want to bring it there so we can destigmatize that in those areas because I feel like a lot of times, growing up as a Black man, people will be like, well, you're not really supposed to show that much emotion because it's not masculine. It's not the masculine thing to do to cry. But crying is such like a normal emotion that I don't know why we would be so against it and trying to hinder it because of stuff like femininity and masculinity.
Mhm.
So I definitely want to make it bigger and find some way to incorporate Rosanna on it and hopefully just stigmatize it. That's the dream. 10 years from now, we'll see.
I love everything that you're saying. And I, like, as you were speaking, I was just like doubling down on the light that you bring. And I don't know if you all can tell, but right now there's this Kawon, there's like this light around you. And it's just, everything that you're saying is so necessary right now. We're so hard on ourselves and we're so hard on each other. And it's those stories that we keep telling us, and it's generation after generation after generation, that it's time to really cut those cords and cut those ideas that are just, they're not, they just don't help us connect in the way that we need to survive on this planet, right? Like, we don't have anywhere else to go. We're all the same species, like, we're all humans. So we need to find a way of, like, connecting with each other, and we need to tender our heart. And I just wanted to just circle back to you mentioning crying.
Hmm.
Crying is something that's difficult for me but easy to happen. And I
Hmm.
will tell you, for me, when I am proud of somebody that I love, like, doing, like, seeing them in all of their joy, I can't help but like I will oftentimes I'll be watching something that my kids will do or my beloved is doing, and I just like I start crying and they're like, "Are you okay?" Like I'm just so crying. I'm like,
No, I definitely understand that because I'm the same way, to be honest. I growing up, like I would only like cry like once, like every 4 years, which is like so terrible.
"Oh
because like
gosh."
because like I did go through like stuff that like a normal person would probably cry about, but like it was such a like a taboo thing for like people like me to do at that time that I kind of like internalized all of those things, and I had to put on this thing like it's people out there that have it
Yeah.
worse than me. I gotta just keep it pushing and keep it going. But now, like 2023 me, now that I'm like I've took the time to kind of do the work and do the healing and go to therapy and get an understanding on why I was the way that I was. I'm very like I'm super like opened up a lot more to like feeling that emotion and being emotional, and when things are sad and when things are like I'm overfilled with joy, I can have that moment to like shed a tear or two. So yeah, I definitely understand.
Yeah. I went through a training with the organization. The training was called the Failure Lab, and I'll put the link in the show notes. But it was basically it was so cool. It was like how to identify your leadership techniques and strengths and I'm not doing it justice, but through how you identify with failure. And that was just something that was really intriguing to me. And I'm like, ooh, how do I identify with failure? But one of the things that they said, and it was such a good reminder, is that when we do have a moment of anxiety or fear, or something where like we are triggered, right? And something was happened in us, whether it was physical or just even mental, we have to go through the process of like processing it and then stepping back and like feeling the feelings and then exhaling and getting it out of our body. But what happens so many times in the world that we live in is we go from one anxious event to the next, to the next, to the next, and we don't allow ourselves to even like exhale and shake it off, or take a day and just be like,
Mhm.
okay, that was not cool. Even if it's just somebody being mean to you, it's like on the subway or something, like, where did that come from? I remember I was in traffic the other day and literally the light turned green and I looked up and it was green and somebody was already laying on their horn. I'm like, bruh, like I'm getting there. I gotta actually put my foot on the gas. Um, so anyways, this is so great. I want to talk to you more about this. We're going to have to make a date to really go deep on some of this mental health and just, I feel like it's more, yes, it's mental health, but it's also tapping back into like every part of us as a human being. And we spend
Mhm.
so much time up in our brain with, logic and, let's do a pros and cons list. How about if we just breathe and
Breathe.
feel our heart, right?
Yes. And before we move on, I just really want to like take a few seconds to just say thank you to Rosanna De Leon, because without her, this whole thing wouldn't even exist. And I'm like super grateful for like her creating this outlet, because she really, really helped me a lot in 2021 with this program. I was going through a lot personally in my relationship at the time, and she really was like such a healing like outlet for me. And I want
Mhm.
to just thank Giselle Burkett and Felicia Prince for helping. They were the licensed social workers who helped advocate to get a budget for us and to get this to be like bigger than what it was originally. So I'm really thankful to those three women. So I just
The,
wanted to say
the
that before we
wellness
move on.
the wellness peace warriors, absolutely. Yeah, no, that's great. And we'll make sure we get everybody's names correctly and I'll put in the show notes so people can look them up and learn more. I feel like I could talk to you forever, but I know that it's a Sunday afternoon and there's things that we need to do. There's probably, I don't know, you probably have more to do than I do. But I want to finish by asking you three questions. And the
Okay.
first question is, since it is an Earth Month, and you spent several years on a farm and you're still doing some of, a little bit of work with the earth.
Yes.
Um, what are some things that we should be doing less of? If just a couple tips, maybe like 2 tips of like, maybe we should think about not doing this.
Okay, so things that you should be doing less of, definitely. I mean, there's the really popular one, stop littering, of course. Littering is like probably like the biggest thing we could stop doing right now, but like some smaller things that we could stop doing, kind of like just stop throwing away like your food, like
Mm.
your food scraps. I think a better thing that you could be doing is like taking those food scraps to different compost sites in New York City or in whatever state that you're in. I know specifically in New York City, there's a bunch of compost sites throughout the world and specific programs for it. Green City Forest being one of them. If you want to find like a specific place to dump your compost at, if you live in New York City, there's one. We have a farm in each borough, so y'all could just look those up. And then what else can we do? We can stop emitting a lot of gas by taking
Mm.
either the bus instead of taking Ubers everywhere, because if we're just taking Ubers everywhere, like these cars are like emitting a lot more gas than about 20 people on a bus instead of like 4 people in a car. Like
Yeah.
we're gonna be like doing that a little bit. And then another thing that I would say, volunteer at your local community gardens. I was doing that for a few years as well. I did the Newtown Creek cleanup, which was basically we went to Newtown Creek and we picked up all of the litter, and we were out there for 2 hours tops. It was like a Saturday, so it didn't interfere with anything we had doing with like school or work, and it only takes 2 hours of your time. You can find, if you're in New York City, you can go on the Nitro Reese website, and they have like a whole list of like different environmental programs that you can volunteer at. Um, just donating your time for 2 hours is a big help.
Those are great, great suggestions. And I'm a big fan of composting. In fact, I use it as an experiment. Like I'll dig a hole and I'll put something in there and I'll be like, oh, I wonder how long it's going to take for it to turn into something else, like just turn into dirt. I drink coffee every morning. So I take my coffee grounds, and then if I eat eggs or something, I'll mash up the eggs and put them in the coffee grounds, and then like put them or sprinkle them around my plants and stuff like that. So I love composting. It's such a great idea. And you can honestly, if you have a yard or a small porch garden or something, you can use some of your scraps to give nutrients to your plants. One of my favorite things to do is with lemon and orange peels is I take them and I put them in a jar with vinegar, and I keep them in my cabinet for about a month or so. And then I put it into a spray bottle and I use that for my glass cleaner.
Oh, snap. I
I
have
know.
to try
Banana.
that. How
Yeah,
long does it
banana.
take?
It only takes like sometimes I keep it in there for like 2 weeks max, and then I'll just take the vinegar and cut it with some water. And then another one I do is banana peels in a jar with water. And then that's potassium, and I'll just pour the water in my plants, like especially during the winter when I bring them in. So I could go on forever. Let's turn this into the Nikki and Kawon gardening show. Gardening tips.
And just really quickly for the people who don't know like what composting is, it's basically you just take any kind of like food scraps that you have. Some of like the most popular ones are kind of like coffee grounds or banana peels, stuff like that, and you just bring it to like a site, and then the people that you give it to, they take it and they kind of like chop it up, and then they throw it in like a crater of like soil and stuff. And then after like 2 weeks, it'll heat up to like 180 degrees. If it's healthy, it'll heat up to 180 degrees. And then you'll have like some fine grained soil that you could put back into the earth.
That's amazing. I love it. So those are things that we can do more of. What is one thing that we should do less of? You mentioned transportation, not driving so many Ubers, but can you think of one other thing that we should maybe do less of when it comes to maybe like our food? I don't know. your
Uh,
experience?
I think, oh my God, not, I think a lot of times we waste a lot of food. So I think kind of like saving that will help a lot. Sorry, my light just cut off. I
That's
had a
okay.
whole,
You had a whole setup.
I had a whole setup for you, Nikki.
I know, and probably because we're talking forever.
No, you're good. We could I'm gonna just go right here. Yeah, we can saving your food will also help because I feel like a lot of the things that we do just kind of get wasted. When we're full and we just don't want
Mhm.
it, we'll kind of just like throw it out or we'll let stuff like expire. So like just kind of like keeping an eye out on the things that you have in your fridge and maybe putting the things that are gonna expire first, like closer in the front, and putting the things that are newer in the back helps a lot.
That's great advice. And you'll be surprised that like some of the fruits and vegetables, you can freeze. Like, like if they're like I have a bunch of bananas in my freezer right now, just waiting for me to throw them into a shake. And they're just sitting in my freezer. They'll be there for a little while. So you can do stuff like that. I have frozen blueberries in my freezer. That is a gift from God. Let me tell you, they are so amazing. Okay, very last question, because your battery's probably running out on your phone.
Ah!
um, so, I'm talking to AmeriCorps alums across the country. I'm about to have a conversation with an AmeriCorps alum who's in Germany, and I'm so excited about this. We're everywhere. We're everywhere. We're 1.2 million strong. What vision could you have? What do you think we could do as a collective who have had similar but different experiences, but we're all come together similarly because we're AmeriCorps alums? What could you see for us?
I was actually really waiting for this question because I want as many people that sees this to go. And if it's possible, if it's in your budget, if you could find a way to get there, every year they in Washington they do a National Day of Service for everyone in AmeriCorps. I got to go last year, and I'm planning on going again this year because I really want to go. I had so much fun last year. Like, and we do a big national day where we like just go out, we pick up trash, clean up what we can clean up, and like we just make it feel like an important day. And then we come back and we have food and snacks and we talk to each other about the service we've done. It's just like a great way to connect with different people from all over the world. So I want as many people possible from the AmeriCorps programs to actually try and make it out there this year. It happens every year, every summer. And I will send Nikki the link to it so she could put it down below in the YouTube section thing.
Yes.
And so we can all like plan something because I think that would be really, really fun to like all get out there and do it.
I love this idea, and it's happening in the summer, so it's happening soon. Is it June, July?
I'm not sure quite yet.
Okay.
I'm gonna look it up today, and I'm gonna send you
Okay.
all the.
Oh my gosh, what a great note to finish on. And I love that. And I am 45 minutes from DC. So if it's a day that I can do it and it's not 7,000 degrees down there in Washington, DC, no, I will definitely be there as long as my schedule permits. And that way I can give you a big hug, because this has been so wonderful. You are such a gift. And I feel like I've been given a gift because we've been able to spend this time together. So I'm also just a little touched that we got to meet each other because we were both AmeriCorps members. So this has been really special. Thank you so much for listening. And I will have all of the details that Kawon mentioned in the show notes. So thank you, and looking forward to another wonderful interview with an AmeriCorps alum coming up here soon. Kawon, thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Nikki.
All right. Take care.